Hi, it's Larry Herb, Xbox's Major Nelson. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast. We've been off a couple weeks, but we have the gang back. Jeffrey over there on the left, Rebecca to the right, me in the middle. Hi, gang.
Hello.
Hi. It's good to be back.
Hello. It's been, it's funny. The end of the summer is kind of this funny time, at least here in the United States. We're kind of school's going back in session for those of you with kids, and everyone's trying to get the last drops of summer out, like Rebecca in New York and Jeff and I up here in Seattle, where, it's Jeff. I don't know about you, but did you notice how the sun just left?
Oh, it's done. It was very quick. Rebecca, is it me or your latency just like super low? Like, I feel like you're just like, you're closer than normal.
Well, maybe. How did you know? Yeah, I'm actually coming to you live from the Microsoft campus in a very empty meeting room, in a very empty building, in a very empty campus right now.
Which means, for those of you that keep up with this, Rebecca's been out in New York. Are you back here permanently, or are you going to go back, or what's going on?
Oh, no. I just really missed my parents in Pumbaa, and I was tired of the sunshine and having fun in New York, so I wanted to come back and be cold. So here I am. I did not bring a thick enough jacket for sure.
Who needs all that great pizza and the Subway and all of the rest of that stuff there? No, yeah, that's who needs that anyway. Well, we're glad to have you, but you're only here for a little while. Is that your first time back in the office since COVID hit?
Yeah, this is my first time in the office all year. And then as soon as I got here, 10 minutes later, there was a fire alarm. So that's how it works, right?
that's exactly how, it's funny because we were doing, you were scheduled, you get an interview. Each one of us has an interview this week, but we were having one for you. And now you were like texting me like, there's a fire alarm. I'm like, really? What's going on there? I don't understand that. But anyway,
it's fine when I was there.
If it had just been the flashes, I could have ignored that. But there was also the, emergency, evacuate. Yeah.
Evacuate. Yeah. Well, you need to do that. So I thank you for respecting the fire alarm process. So thanks for that. But it's been a couple weeks, as I said at the top of the show. I don't know what you all have been playing, but I figure we'll go through that. We've got some great interviews. We've got some news. Rebecca, let's start with you since you've been traveling. I don't know if you had a chance to play. What are you playing?
Yeah, I started playing Psychonauts like a week and a half ago, and it's really good. I'm really enjoying it so far. I will say though, it actually did give me nightmares.
It did? What? Well, without spoilers, can you? Jeff finished it, and I finished it. Well,
so I haven't finished it yet. Okay. I started it, and it's in the like the mouth. I'm not giving any spoilers there. Like when you start the game, you're in this like mouth dentist nightmare scenario, and then surprise, I actually had a nightmare about that.
Did you have a
nightmare?
Kind
of vivid dreams anyway.
Was it a nightmare you were in someone's mouth? Someone was in your mouth? You were at the dentist? Like,
I don't think I want to know the answer to this, Larry.
I'm just trying to figure
out. Yeah, it was basically just me in the game. It's kind of a lot of different scenarios, right? Like you're in like an office space, and then all of a sudden then you're in a mouth and you're jumping on molars and things like that. So it was a little bit of all of those things. And I woke up and I just felt kind of gross, but right. I still kept playing the game anyway. Now I just know I need to not play right before I go to bed. So this has happened before. I told you I had a nightmare after we played Aliens Fireteam 2.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. That happened to me. That used to happen to me when I was younger, where it would happen. It was Halo. Halo gave me elite and grunt nightmares for some reason. I don't know why. That was a long time ago.
Were they exploding and going, yay?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was Joe Staten, because Joe Staten used to do a lot of voices for the grunts. He used to do grunty voices. But yeah, it was yay and all the rest of that. I'll get you, human, or whatever. So
yeah.
Well, for you, I will just say Psychonauts only gets trippier from there. So expect more Psychonauts dreams.
There is.
All right,
there's
I
one
think
level.
I need to carve out playing time during the day then.
Yeah, there's one whole section, and Jeff, I don't know if this will be a spoiler or anybody else be a spoiler. For those of you who've played it, it's the psychedelic section, and that one
that's not a spoiler.
It is. First of all, I love the music in that section. It was so chill and relaxed. It was like a festival, but the whole thing. I mean, it is just a. Like I tweeted out over the weekend when I finished it. It is like a little trap, like the little trap doors in the game. It's a little trap door into Tim Schafer's mind. It's fascinating.
It's exceptional. So, and you just have to tell me when you do the game show level both of you. I want to hear
Okay.
your.
I did it.
reaction
I
to that.
remember you told me.
Camera.
I remember you told me about it, Jeff. It was a lot. I was like, it was fun. I really enjoyed
It's
it.
so good. It's so good. It's so funny. It's really a very funny game.
Yeah, it's so this is one you need to finish, Rebecca. It's just again, don't play it at night.
Got it. Okay. But you said you finished it over the weekend? Like,
Yeah,
is that
I
what you've
finished in
been
the
playing, Mary?
I did. I just, it was one of those games. It's one of those games that I just kept, you keep going back to, and I couldn't stop playing. I just loved it. It kept getting weirder and weirder, and the voiceovers are so good. Like that, I don't even know. Again, this is not a spoiler, Jeff, but you'll understand what I'm saying. Like that angry moth in the level. Do you remember the moth that was flying around? It was, I don't know why. I loved her voiceover.
Oh, that one. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
It's like,
There's so
why
many
are you
like good
bothering
little
me?
parts.
Leave me alone. And why do you have to
There-
ruin
there's,
everything?
there's a library level pretty far into the game. And there's a lot of just like optional sort of, I'll just say, people to talk to. You
Talk
should
to
do
them.
that because they all have really interesting,
Okay.
very funny things to say.
Yeah, I did. In fact, I told
Okay,
my
good
sister, my sister's a librarian, and I told her about that level because at some points, one of the little mechanics is you go into books and it's a platformer inside the books. I just thought that was all this game is great. I mean, so I don't want to call it because I am not qualified to say this, and the internet will remind me of this. This may be a game of the year.
It's certainly in the running. I think people no, it's been a lot of conversation like that. You're not the first to say it. It's exceptional. Obviously, we have a lot of year left, and so, but certainly, maybe I would say my favorite game that I've played so far this year.
And again, people, it's on Game Pass, and actually, it's on Game Pass. So if you're on Xbox, you have Game Pass, you're all set. It's pretty much on every platform because when they did the Kickstarter. So it's also on PlayStation. I know that Phil tweeted out about PlayStation. So it's a lot of places. Enjoy it. Have fun.
Yeah.
So
what else have you played?
Rebecca, you playing anything else?
No, I had a bunch of friends in town the last couple of weeks, so haven't had a lot of. That's why I've been playing at night, is because that's my only time I've had to play. So
right, yeah.
I don't know,
I'm trying to figure. I'm just pulling up the Xbox app right now because I want to see what I've been playing. Because I've been playing quite a few things. I started doing Artful Escape, and Jeff will have an interview about Artful Escape later on in the show. Jeff, talk about trippy.
Yeah, there's really nothing like this, and especially coming off of Psychonauts and playing this, it's like there's never been a better time for really like sumptuous visual psychedelic sort of colors like you've never seen them, and to play them both like essentially back to back is pretty trippy, and great music as well. So really, the games themselves are nothing alike, but in terms of that sort of aesthetic, people making the most of the medium to just, I think that games have been criticized at different points, mainly like 10 years ago for like being too brown or too gray. Nope, not anymore. So
they found the color wheel in Photoshop, right?
And they turned the saturation like all the way up.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. What I know, Jeff, you said you were playing Artful Escape. What else are you playing?
Yeah, there was another game that came to Game Pass that I was looking for something in between, actually, because Artful Escape, I was waiting for it to go live, and the day before, a game called Breath Edge went live, which is like a sort of an interesting space game. It's like, and maybe it's not as funny as they think it is. They're trying very hard to be funny, and there are a couple chuckles there for sure. But you're sort of like marooned in space, and like, you have very little air, and trying to like go around and find this, to repair this, to do this. And so I found, I spent a few hours with that, and I had a pretty good time. I also then played Splitgate, which is, you've probably
I've heard really good things. Yeah.
Portal plus Halo equals Splitgate. It's a free-to-play game. It's cross-console. So I actually was playing with Sid and some friends over at PlayStation. We were able to get in there together. It is very trippy because you realize exactly how maybe if you're playing shooters like that are most commonly out there, like the rules.
Right.
When you start thinking, oh wait, there could be a portal there, and someone could shoot a rocket through this portal, and that could just come out and kill me. Well, that's not something I was thinking about. But it was really interesting.
You are now.
We were playing a game that was like Oddball, and you remember Oddball from from Halo. Where you have to hold on to this skull, I think, and they had a similar mode to that. And at some point it clicked for me. I got the ball and I put a portal someplace. And if anyone came near me, I just dropped a portal and jumped through it. And I kept popping out of the same place, but they didn't seem to figure it out. And I just ran the table on the match. And it was pretty funny. So it's a really interesting title. It's free to play.
Splitgate.
And Splitgate. Yeah, give that a shot. And then, I've just been playing an awful lot of Octopath Traveler, which I will be playing that for the rest of the year. And then, and I beat Ghost of Tsushima. So I've been playing a ton. So that was a long-term game that I played all summer. Look, I haven't left this room for years.
Is Octopath Traveler, is that your like, I'm going to sit down and play a game. What am I going to play? Well, I'm comfortable with this one. Let me just jump in and play an hour for this. Is that, because we've all got those games in our gaming cycles, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I can make progress on that game in an hour. I can make a tremendous amount of progress in that game in an hour. So it's a series of sort of, I don't want to say bite-sized stories, but like I can play through a chapter maybe in like an hour or so. Right. Thing is, there's a ton of chapters. So I will be, I think I'm 30 hours in. I think that's like an 80 to 100 hour game.
Right.
But I don't want to stop playing because I know that I'm enjoying it. It'll be worth it. But there's a lot of great stuff coming down the line. I know we'll be really excited to play. We've got from the makers of Yakuza, we've got Last Judgment coming out next week. So that'll be a drop.
I'm going to need you to do the big voice from the makers of Yakuza. I need you to do the big announcement.
In the world.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Tokyo 2019.
There we go.
One game I forgot to mention that I just started last night, and Jeff, you know what I'm going to say.
I don't.
Deathloop.
Oh, yes, please. Tell me about it. Hearing a lot of great stuff about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just started it, so I'll have a full report next week. So you may see me playing if you follow me on Xbox Live, you may see me playing that because I'm playing it on Steam, and Steam will tell you what game you're playing over at Xbox Live if you hook it up properly. So
connect all the things.
I'm going to play some Deathloop, so you'll see me playing that. I'll let you know how that goes because that's from our one of our other studios, Bethesda.
Yeah, Arcane Lyon was the studio.
Have you ever been to Lyon? I've never been to Lyon in France.
I've never been outside of Paris in France. What about you, Rebecca?
Just Paris, yeah. Although I think one of our colleagues went there and he had a fantastic time, right?
Oh, everything about France is so beautiful. I was reading an interesting story about, I don't know why I bring this up, but I will. It was about the school lunches around the world that children have. And
I saw that roundup too. Yeah.
And remember, like France, they have a chef, they have china, they have silverware. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I went to school, if I, that cardboard pizza was the special day.
Yeah.
Did they have Mexican pizza? That's what it was called in our school. It was like there was nothing Mexican about it, but it was what it was called. It was like a hexagon. It was Florida cafeteria.
I'll have to look this up. No, we just had that terrible frozen pizza that was in like not even slices. It was like rectangles, and it was just that kind of, right? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, we had those too.
The square rectangle pizza too. Yeah.
We had those, and then certain times I think it was like maybe similar to something they served at Taco Bell. Now I have to look at the origins of Mexican pizza now, but
definitely Florida.
Of a Mexican pizza.
Should have went to school in France.
There's something that's more Mexican where it's basically just like a tortilla and they put stuff on top of it. So it's more on the Mexican side that they're having to call pizza. It's not pizza that's Mexican. Does that make sense? No, never mind.
I don't know.
Never mind. So I don't know how we go. Oh, French food. So
I mean, if we want to go, did you see Lupin? Did you watch Lupin? Season 2 came out earlier in the summer. If you want to just like enjoy the scenery of France, it kind of did for me what Yakuza did for Japan.
That's like
it's a caper, like a heist
thieves
caper show.
Yeah, heist. Yeah.
And Omar Sy, who's the character, has his real name. Just very likable, very cool guy.
Where do people find this?
But it's on Netflix.
Oh, it's on Netflix. Okay.
And they're dashing around Paris, and you just watch it, and you just like fall in love with Paris, and they're in other parts of France at different times. So, a really cool show. Highly recommend. It's there's only maybe 12 episodes total. But check it out. Lupin. Now, it has nothing to do with Lupin the Third, the anime. So. All right, that was my first guess.
Good distinction.
Well, all right then.
Yes, it's
Anything else you
Arsène
want to?
Lupin. I guess it's like their version. Like I guess if it's real, like the French version of like the um, you know, some inspector or something like
Ocean's
that.
11 or something. I don't know.
Well, no, he I guess Arsène Lupin was like I was like the Hardy Boys or some sort of like
So is he with the Certé, the police?
Sherlock Holmes or something. Yeah,
Is he with the Certé?
he's a gentleman thief. What?
Okay. Oh, I see. Gentleman thief. Never mind.
Yes.
Okay. We've got some interviews. Boy, do we have some interviews for you all this week. So, Jeff, do you want to kind of set us up and we can roll into them, because you're not going to want to miss a moment of any of these. Why don't you go ahead and set us up?
Right, you are, Larry. We all have one, which is really cool. First up, Larry, you're going to be speaking with Rebecca Bussell from Life is Strange: True Colors, which is out now. Then Rebecca, not the same Rebecca, this Rebecca, is going to be talking to Greg Petharotis, the creative director from Shedworks, the makers of Sable. This is a really cool looking game coming to Xbox Game Pass. And then lastly, it was my distinct pleasure, my honor to talk to Johnny Galvatron. You'll see, Rebecca, you'll see. Johnny Galvatron.
Can't wait.
He is the maker of Artful Escape. He's sort of the creative genius behind it. He's exactly what you think he is. And then some. So take it away.
Life is Strange: True Colors is now available on Xbox. I'm very excited to be joined by Rebecca Bussell, who's the producer at Deck Nine Games. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi.
What a delight to have you here. Life is Strange is, this has been an amazing franchise that gamers have loved for years and years. You guys have really pushed the boundaries of storytelling, in the electronic video game medium. But I want to talk about that. But before we get going, I want to talk about you and your journey and what you do there at Deck Nine Games. Would you tell us a little bit about your past?
Sure. Well, I feel like most developers, when they talk about their journey into the game industry, they always start out with this is not typical, but don't try and recite the same thing. And I apologize. I will repeat the same. This is not typical. So I started playing games like everyone else when I was a kid, primarily on PlayStation and Xbox. And I realized in college, I went to a small liberal arts college in Maine called Bates College.
Mm-hmm.
I was a rhetoric major there, which is basically a fun way to spend 4 years of your life and your college tuition. I studied the way in which different texts, be they a speech, book, film, a game, can be persuasive and or tell a story in a way that compels the player or reader or person who hears it to then be convinced of that viewpoint. I realized
Wait a minute, that's a major?
Year,
that's a major?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure my rhetoric professor and department head will be like, well, actually, it's this definition of rhetoric, but that's
right.
A major. Yeah. It's basically, I liken it to like film criticism or just media analysis in general.
Yep.
I realized my sophomore year of college that I was like, I don't know how, but games are such an amazing, wonderful way to tell a story and to interact with something. And how can I make rhetoric and games interact? And I was like, I have no idea. I'm just going to write every single term paper I can for every rhetoric class about a game and the way in which a game is designed, how it tells their story. I ended up actually writing my honors thesis in my senior year on narratology, authorship, and agency in video games. I looked at the Stanley Parable, which now working on a Life is Strange title, I think fits just so perfectly well.
Right.
Yeah, I when I first got out of college, I applied for a job at Nickelodeon. So I was a production coordinator there on their mobile and web games team. And then associate producer, about 3.5 years there in total.
Yep.
And then a friend of mine, who's another producer on the game, Rachel Sema, reached out to me and said, I'm on this amazing project in Colorado. This is really special. We're hiring another producer. You should come. And I said, I've never been to Colorado. Why would I want to go to Colorado? I'm in New York City. I'm having a great time. Why would I do that? And she's like, no, you have to come. It's very special.
Let's cut to the scene of you packing all your things in your car and going over the George Washington Bridge and driving west, right?
Oh, yeah. Like, I didn't know what to expect. And then when I got here, and I hope, what I hope players of the game feel, because this game really is a love letter to Colorado. And I think a lot of the developers on the game feel this way too. If you got here and you're like, wow, oh my God, there's so much biodiversity and the landscape, and there's so many beautiful things in the mountains and the towns that are here, and just everything that's just wonderful in Colorado. So I got here, I fell in love. I found out I was working on Life is Strange 3, having grown up, played the first one in college. I burst into tears.
Sure.
And then when I found out it was about empathy, I cried even more because I think something that a lot of young folks, especially young women, are told when they're growing up is that your empathy, or just empathy in general, is emotions are things to be feared and not really things to investigate. And the more that you focus in on those, it makes you a weaker person. And I think I can talk more about the game and how that applies later, but it's really special to be able to now, as a producer, help artists, engineers, programmers, all of these different engineers, programmers, same thing. All of these different individual contributors help make the game in the most effective, efficient way possible.
I mean, this is an amazing story because your background is exactly what that game need, or what that franchise needs in terms of how to convince people. So that must feel really good that you look in your career rearview mirror, and and I tell people this all the time. Every single thing you do adds up, and it brought you exactly where you needed to be. So that's I mean, well done. Congratulations on that. Now let's talk about the game. Life is Strange: True Colors. Brand new game. It's out now. This is I can't remember which number this is, but there's been quite a few of them in terms of chapters. But where does it fit in the narrative of the Life is Strange universe?
So this is a brand new entry into the Life is Strange universe. There are some references scattered throughout Easter eggs that fans can find that maybe reference the events that have happened in previous games. But as far as if you're a new player, you know nothing about the franchise, you just saw this really cool trailer in March and you're like, oh my God, that looks fun. I want to try it.
Right.
New players can jump right in. We have a brand new protagonist, Alex Chen, and her she's grown up as a kid within the foster care system, having been separated from her brother Gabe for the last about 8 years. I believe the start of the game, she's 21 or 22.
Okay.
And we arrive in Haven Springs, where she's been contacted by her brother Gabe to start a new life. And when she gets there, after a day of having a great time, and the trailers say this, so no spoilers technically, but he dies in a mysterious accident. And you, Alex, using your supernatural power of empathy / mind reading / heart reading, where you can see and understand the emotions of people and why they're feeling a certain way, have to find out what happened to him and what the secrets, what Haven Springs is hiding from that too.
Now, you just finished telling us about your college work at university, where you learned about how to essentially do exactly this. So how does it feel to take? I mean, you must be writing your professor right now, going, "Hey, guess what I'm doing? This is because you wrote all about that when you were in college. So that's amazing that you're able to bring it forward. What is it like to work with these characters? Did you walk in and say and they said, okay, Alex is the name of the character, or were you actually able to develop the character that it was this type of person and defined it? And tell us a little bit about the character creation process.
Mm-hmm. So me, Rebecca, not involved in the process. I came a bit later on into the development. But what's funny, you mentioned my college work, because the way that the writers were thinking about Alex and her character and the way that she would be informed was very similar to the work that I did in college.
Right.
The writers, when they came off of Life is Strange Before the Storm in 2017, they knew they wanted to make a game about a character or somebody where empathy was the central power.
Right.
Because essentially, video games are empathy machines when you think about it. You as the player are being asked to control the fate of a character on screen and understand their background, what they need to accomplish, X, Y, and Z. And then, the choices you make from them impart that empathy towards you about that character. So the team really started to focus on, okay, what kind of character where they could feel the super empathy? Where would this be a problem? Where would it be dramatic? And the team did a lot of research and consulting with people that have grown up in foster care, of when you're constantly being transported from different foster home to foster home, or living in a system where you have everybody's emotions constantly surrounding you and you're trying to figure out who you are versus, is this the emotion that I'm taking from somebody else? And then which is something we experience just generally. And then bringing that up to like the 500th degree, what types of things would you see and feel and hear? And that was always the core. And that was just a really fun world to explore and what kinds of things would happen to that person.
Yeah, and I'm looking at and we've got the trailer right here, right now, and you can kind of see a little bit of it. It looks like the Life is Strange universe, which is great, but we can see a little bit about the main character and as you play as her, and her superpower that you referred to earlier is, how does that reveal itself? How do you see? Is it just thought bubbles above someone's head, or tell us a little bit about that mechanic?
Mm-hmm. So one special piece of this for Alex, too, as our new protagonist, she is the first Life is Strange protagonist where we start the game and we instantly know right off the bat, this is a power Alex has had for a very long time. And she comes to Haven Springs viewing it as a curse. And how that manifests is when Alex encounters an individual with a particularly strong emotion, she'll see that emotion radiate out from them in a colored aura. And that color matches the emotion that they'll have. So in the beginning, if the character is angry, they'll have a very big red aura around them. Or if they're sad, they'll have a blue aura. And Alex, if it's at a high enough level, can use her power to read into that person's thoughts and see the world temporarily as they see it.
It's interesting you say that, because we've all had those experiences where maybe you're angry or you're happy and you feel like you're radiating red and anger or happiness, green, or whatever your happy color is. So it's interesting to see that you chose that as the methodology. And of course, part of the experience and these games is the rich storytelling. Life is Strange, as you said, you played the first one when you were a little bit younger in college. They really they're almost the books of our generation in some regards. Certainly people say video games are like that, but these are just so specific in terms of their storytelling. It's got to be great to work on that. But what's interesting also is that you're now working at Deck Nine Games, and if I understand correctly, is Don't Nod, which started the series. You guys are now taking that mantle forward for Life is Strange. Is that accurate?
I don't believe that we are the ones taking the entire franchise. That franchise belongs to Square Enix, and we were lucky to be able to do an entry in it.
Sure, of course.
So this, yeah. So with this specific moment, I think what's so wonderful about the Life is Strange franchise and the immense, immense glass ceilings that Don't Nod broke with putting this game forward and showing that there's an audience for stories about young people and experiencing the mundane in a supernatural way, and focusing on story and community building, and just seeing how many people out there that mattered so much to them was really freeing for Deck Nine. Knowing that we could start telling stories, and luckily in this universe, about love, loss, grief, moving away, trying to find what home means to you, all of these different mental health and emotional health things that all of us have in our life and we learn how to process, has just been a blessing to really have had that wonderful precedent set by Don't Nod, and then now us throwing our hat into the ring to add to that world.
Right. The original game, some of the original games of Life is Strange, they were broken up in chapters. Do you use the same mechanic for this title?
Yes. The only difference is now we're giving the player much more agency in choosing, do you want to play all of them through at once? So you just get the whole thing at once, but you still have those breaks? Or do you want to, at the end of a bad cliffhanger, at the end of a chapter, stop, cry your feelings out, take a minute, and then maybe come back to it in a couple of days, in a week. But so that the structure is still built in and it doesn't fundamentally change, but we're allowing the player to choose that rhythm that they want to have the story.
Yeah, it's a recipe that people enjoy and lends itself to the modern storytelling. So I'm so excited to see. It's funny because we have to talk about this game, and we don't want to do any spoilers. You kind of told us what it is, but there's also something interesting here is that, you talked about the chapters, but my understanding is with one of the additions, there's also some downloadable content that's going to happen later in the month. Is that accurate?
Yes, our DLC for our beloved character Steph, Life is Strange Wavelengths. It's coming out, I believe, at the end of September, which is wonderful. I'm so sorry. Pardon my words.
That's quite all right.
What's so special about the production of this specific DLC is the team started writing it just as we went into lockdown for the pandemic. and we kind of had to readjust everything. And this whole DLC that you're seeing is a single person, Katie Bentz, who is amazing, shot by herself, and then the team working remotely to tell this complex story of a woman moving to a new place, trying to establish what her identity is as a queer woman throughout the entire year before the events of the main game. And the fact that the team pulled this off and just how it just so perfectly tied into the constraints we were given as a dev studio, it feels natural. And it was just, it's so amazing to have that be put together.
Well, I first of all, I always love to tell people this. I mean, the most important feature of any game is shipping it. And you've done that, so congratulations. So it's great to see. And again, for folks that are new to the Life is Strange series, this is, you don't have to play any, as she said earlier, you don't have to play any of them, but if you do, you'll see some things in there that you may recognize, and certainly this amazing storyteller. So Rebecca Bussell, thanks so much. Producer at Deck 9 Games, congratulations to you and the team for shipping it, and thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I hope you guys enjoy playing.
Sable was first revealed to the world a few years ago, and it's finally going to be coming out on Xbox Game Pass, and PC next week. And so here to tell us about the game is Greg from Shedworks.
Hi. How's it going?
Hi, it's going, thanks. Tell us a little bit about Sable.
So Sable is a open world exploration game. You play as a young girl setting out from home for the first time on kind of a rite of passage that everyone on this in this world takes part in, which is called the gliding. And the gliding involves basically everyone in this world wears a mask, and masks kind of convey different cultural or carry different cultural meaning or function. And the gliding is basically a way for young adults going into adulthood to try out different kinds of masks and see what kind of fits them. And then at the end of the gliding, they choose a mask to settle with. So throughout the game, you'll be trying out different things, helping out different people, meeting different people, exploring different places, and just basically trying to find out what fits you. But the game is primarily based around exploration. So there's lots of kind of big open spaces to explore. You're driving around on a hover bike through the dunes and exploring different biomes, different like old ruins and fallen spaceships as you do so. So it's kind of has a loneliness to it in a way, the game, like it's part of like the story we're telling about leaving home, I guess, and some of the feelings you get when you do that. We kind of thought of it in a similar way to when you leave home for the first time, maybe go to university or start living on your own or go and do I don't know, people do different things in different places, I guess, but this is Sable's version of that. And it's primarily based around exploration. We wanted it to keep it quite loose. So there's kind of, there's no set kind of main quest line to do. There's just a variety of different things that you can choose to do, places you can visit. And we don't really do a lot to control that. We kind of want to give the player a lot of freedom. And that's kind of also reflected in the mechanics that we use in the game. So we have this very free climbing system where players can climb on more or less any surface and explore any environment and approach any environment in any way that they want. We kind of keep, that all kind of ties in, I think, or we try to tie that into the idea of exploration and discovery, and really try to evoke strong feelings of wanderlust. And it kind of started, we're a 2-person studio, but the team's grown over time, and the game's been in development for a while. We kind of first had the idea in 2016, but we didn't start full development until late 2017. We didn't think it would be a game that people were interested in. We thought it was just a silly passion project. And yeah, we started sharing it on Twitter, and people apparently were interested. So from there, we managed to get support and get to make it the way we wanted.
Well, it's a pretty unique approach to have the player have so much freedom. I mean, usually even in different open world games, there's still some kind of storyline that you need to follow, some point A to Z that you have to get to in order to progress. So that's a really interesting approach. I mean, is that kind of evocative of like the games that you and like your partner typically like to play, or like how did you come up with the inspiration for that kind of open, no real necessary direction?
I think it's partly like a production thing because we're such a small studio. By having this really loose structure, it allowed us. So we kind of have a beginning and we have an end, but the things in between are more nebulous. And part of that is that that's our way of giving the player agency of saying, okay, the kind of start and the destination. Let us tell you that story, but the journey in between, you can kind of choose where to go and what to see. And if you don't like something, you can walk away from it. But what that meant on a production level was that we could kind of scatter this kind of content around the world. And so people, so it meant that if we needed to cut something, if we didn't have time for something, the kind of overall structure wouldn't just collapse on itself, which sometimes with games, when you're producing them in a more linear fashion, say you need players to see this thing or do this thing in order to make the next thing make sense. And for us, we didn't have that issue so much. It brought plenty of other issues making an open world game, but that was the idea at first. We thought we were being clever. But we still made an open world game with a small team, so we're not that clever. Yeah.
No, it's refreshing. I mean, I can't tell you how frustrating it is for me to get to a certain point and then it's like, oh no, you have to have already completed XYZ in order to progress. And I hate that. So yeah. I think this is actually a very refreshing take. I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, I think so. You just have to collect a couple of masks, and then after that, you can wrap the game up. We expect people to continue playing, but we do encourage people to just play how they want, and when they're bored of it, to go wrap it up and feel like they have a completed story, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Well, with the masks, that's interesting. So is the mask that I would create or get not necessarily the same as like what my friend would get if they were playing the game? Like it kind of varies by the route that you take within the game?
Yeah. So different, it's often kind of runs down professional lines. So maybe there's you have these masks called the machinists, and they're kind of like the engineers of the world. They're kind of scrapping old technology from big ships and turning them into more functional objects in the world. So you can get a machinist mask, for example, or you could get a cartographer's mask. And those cartographers are kind of like the map makers of the world, and they're floating around in their balloons. And you can so you get badges from different people. And when you have 3 badges, you can take that to a mask caster and make a mask. And so the idea there is that you're meeting different people who maybe do the same profession, but maybe have different backgrounds in that profession, or maybe you get all 3 badges from one person, or maybe you don't need any badges at all for a particular mask. We kind of mix it up, but the mask that you pick at the end, that will affect Sable's life going forward, I guess. But so in that sense, yeah, that's more down to you and your journey. But I think we have enough masks that you could finish the game and you'd only see, you could see a totally different set of masks to your friend, for example, and end up choosing something totally different. And I think that is something we wanted to encourage, is this feeling of the playground whispers, trying to keep things a bit more secretive and trying to encourage people to talk to each other about the game and their experience and the things they did. And hopefully that will vary a bit with different people. And you might say, "Oh, did you see this thing?" And if your friend says, "No, you should," no, oh, I totally missed that. Like that to me is a cool experience, because then people like sharing stories about the game and sharing their experiences in a way that I think becomes more and more difficult now with games. There's a lot of stuff gets showed very early or before launch, and it's a totally different way of experiencing games. But this was the idea we had for how someone might experience Sable.
Yeah, I've seen I think the reveal trailer, and then there was another trailer recently, and you can see a lot of really interesting aspects about the game, but it doesn't like give away exactly what you're going to be doing. It looks pretty cool. I mean, can you tell me a little bit more about the hover bikes? I mean, is it weird that it kind of reminds me of Star Wars?
No, not at all. I mean, the hover bikes. Well, the Star Wars connection is definitely there. Like. The original idea of the game definitely was inspired by actually The Force Awakens. Like I think it was kind of like an idea of like, oh, what if Rey never left Jakku? What if she was just a normal person? What if she wasn't the one to save the world? And what if she was someone who just lived on this planet? And it kind of evolved from there. Obviously, it's not the exact same idea, but that was the original conception. And so the hoverbikes reminding of Star Wars isn't a surprise to me, but actually Sable gets given a hoverbike at the beginning of the game, Simoon, who's your kind of traveling companion. And as you explore, you'll get different bike parts, and you'll be able to customize your bike. You'll be able to get different bike palettes. You'll be able to change the color. But the customization system, like, I think it's a really cool system, actually. You can change the wings or the back of the bike, and you can create kind of configurations that look totally different to each other, and also handle and sound totally different from each other. And I think you get some really interesting bike combinations. I've probably only seen like 40%, 50% of the different combinations. I mean, yeah, there are going to be some strange ones, I think, and some fun ones. But yeah, I think that's another way for players to express themselves in the game, that the mask they wear and also the clothes they wear. So they'll be able to change what clothing they're wearing throughout the game. Yeah.
It's very cool. A lot of player freedom in this game. I'm sensing a theme.
Yeah. I think, for sure.
Can you tell me a little bit about the art and the music? I mean, it looks really beautiful. Like both of the trailers that I saw were really well done. What's the inspiration behind the art and the music?
Yeah, the art, we kind of started. It started from a few different places. We started with some like experiments using line art techniques, and then we were obviously inspired by the work of Moebius, the Belgian comic and comic artist, and the style was Lean Claire. Moebius was French, but we were inspired by the Belgian comic styles, but that Moebius was kind of like a pioneer of. But and also tonally very inspired by Studio Ghibli's animation work, but also
yes, I can
a lot
see
of
that.
the inspirations. Yeah, a lot of the inspirations come from, actually, my background's in architecture. I studied architecture, and so a lot of the references that we pull from were actually architects. So Carlo Scarpa, Archigram, and the Metabolist, the Japanese Metabolist. Like a lot of these were kind of an Arcosanti in Arizona. It's like a really interesting desert kind of living scenario. And yeah, these were like real world architectural experiments that we looked at and kind of were inspired by. But yeah, it was just like a kind of synthesis of these different elements and trying to create a place that kind of felt unique. And I think in games especially, because we wanted to pull as much as we could from outside of games for these sorts of inspirations. And, part of that tied into what we wanted to do with music too. So actually the composer of the game is indie musician, Japanese Breakfast, and Michelle, who Is Japanese Breakfast. She composed the entire soundtrack and all the songs in the game. And yeah, we wanted to kind of have someone who hadn't necessarily worked in games before, bring something new to the table. And that was just a really cool, exciting experience to work with her, because she's out touring and writing the songs for the game in the back of her tour bus and stuff. And she brought production experience and also just a different insight into making music. But we also had Martin Kvalle, who he's a sound designer on loads of different game projects. And so we kind of got to have them as our sound team and combine someone who's super experienced in games and someone who she did a small game project as a promotional piece for her second album, I think, but this was her first kind of game project as just a composer. I think that was something we, again, like outside of games inspiration that we wanted to pull in and see what we could do with in a video game.
Yeah. Well, it looks and sounds really unique and beautiful. I'm very excited. I'm sure you have a lot left to do before it launches next week, but do you have any final words?
I hope people come in and feel like, I hope we create something that is just something really evocative and makes people feel kind of a sense of wonder and inspiration, I guess, as they're playing the game. I think it's quite a chilled out game. It's quite slow paced in some ways. But I hope that resonates with people. I hope people just take their time with it. It's, you can't die in the game. It's just about taking it easy and getting lost in this world. And I hope that people get that from it.
That sounds refreshing. I'm excited to try it. So thank you so much for your time. And Sable will be out next week, September 23rd on Xbox Game Pass, and PC.
The Artful Escape, which sounds like a cat burglar caper like the Thomas Crown Affair, is instead an interactive rock drama that looks like it could have spawned from David Bowie or the Beatles or Jimi Hendrix. I've never played anything like it. And I'm assuming I've never interviewed anybody like Johnny Galvatron, who is joining us live from Australia. Johnny, this psychedelic masterpiece spawned from you. And I've been trying to explain this game to folks, which I played through over the weekend, and I loved it. And I kind of landed on Dream Simulator. How do you describe The Artful Escape?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? It seems to be somewhere between like a cinematic experience, an album, a narrative, and a game. I think one of the cool things about the game is just how we approach music, and what is one of the main things that works about the input. I think it's about making music feel like you're playing it live. Like I love a lot of music games. I love Guitar Hero and that sort of thing, but it doesn't really feel like playing music to me. Music, I always use Smells Like Teen Spirit as an example. It's a very easy song to play, but it's powerful, and you're not really thinking about what's coming next. It's in you, and that's what I wanted the guitar to feel like. And I think we did an amazing job of getting the guitar to flow effortlessly through the whole world and give you that badass feeling of shredding across the galaxy.
Well, let's talk about that, because I used to love playing Rock Band, but there was a lot of stress involved. I don't want to get booed off the stage, or maybe I'm playing on too hard of a difficulty. Still had a lot of fun, gave me a lot of appreciation for artists I hadn't met before. But there was something that was really interesting in The Artful Escape. And you have these freestyle moments where, like, no matter what button I push, it sounds good. And it gives you agency, I feel like, to make something that sounds like I made this, but there's like a safety net. So I'm curious, like, how you did that. And I've heard there's a term for something like this called like pareidolia. Tell me, like, how do you make this stuff sound right?
Yeah, well, have you heard of Dark Side of the Rainbow?
Yeah, where
Dark
you
Side
play,
of the Rainbow.
where it was Pink Floyd and Wizard of Oz, right?
Yes, that is it. You start the Dark Side of the Moon on the third roar of the MGM line, and it lines up, but it doesn't really. It's just your brain looking for pattern recognition and trying to associate the visual with the audio. And we kind of do that in a multi-layered audio sense. So we record everything in a key. So like in the Heliotrons in the Snow World, it's just an E flat. Great key, personal favorite key of mine. And you just shred the guitar. We get Eden Altman into the studio, me and Josh Abrahams, who did all the music, record hours of shredding, chop it up, place it in different parts of the music, see if it works, finesse it, round off the corners, and then you get it to play the player can activate the guitar at any point. So you've got to get it to be able to work it at any time. And if you get it right, the guitar, the player will play, the shred will roar across the galaxy, and it'll line up. And sometimes you'll hear it like performing a perfect counter melody with something that's on the track, or reaching a crescendo at the same time. And your mind will say, well, that was exactly how it was supposed to happen. That's how it was composed. But really, it's your mind trying to make sense of what's going on. So if it sounded good to you, it was because your brain made it sound good.
Well, I mean, I will give my brain a lot of the credit here for that, but probably your brain a little bit more for programming this. The only thing I could kind of like describe this as, it kind of reminded me of like Close Encounters of the Third Kind at times, where you're not only jamming out with aliens, but you're jamming out through like tones. And I don't know, when you hit it at the right time, it just felt like incredibly powerful in a really cool way that I'd say you have to experience.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that you have to play. Because yes, totally. I'm going to go into that. I think playing when you get those dual notes that kind of finish these progressions of music, it's like if you hit that progression, you're the one who closes that loop. Yeah, it makes you feel like a badass. Makes you feel like Batman beating up people. That's what I feel like. And yeah, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, huge influence. One of my favorite films. I don't know why Richard Dreyfuss is in it. Seems like a weird character, but if you pull like all of Richard Dreyfuss's parts of the film out, it's like the perfect film. And I think it was a big influence too. I think it's the only film that Spielberg cut to the music. Usually he cuts the film and then he adds the music, and this is the only film that did the other way around. It has this kind of this symphony quality to it, I think. Definitely a big inspiration.
I don't know if any actor more than Richard Dreyfuss ever molded mashed potatoes in such a way. So I think that's what got him the role.
Is that what he did in the audition for Spielberg? He just was like on the mash?
It must have been. It must have been. I saw that movie at a very young age, and I think it for some reason that stuck with me. And yet I was not allowed to play with my food. But did he win an Oscar for that? I don't know. So I would love to talk about. Yeah, probably not. So the guitars in this game are still sort of ringing in my ears after they're playing through it, over the weekend. But another thing that's really stuck with me is the voice of Carl Weathers as Lightning. It was just awesome. This rock god, spaceship captain. It makes sense when you play the game. But he's far from alone as far as big names are concerned. So I would love for you to talk about the voice talent in this game. And also, what did you say to them that made them say, oh, yeah, I want to be like a giant floating head made out of different parts or there's some strange stuff in this game. How did you sell them Lena Headey, for instance, on joining the game?
Yeah. Well, look, here's how it happens from my angle, which is that I did the short story is one time I did a playthrough for Annapurna and the music was broken in the game, and half of it wasn't playing in it, and you've played it, so you know how important it is. And so to cover that silence, I started doing all the characters, just really chewing the scenery like a Shakespearean actor in Star Trek. And I got a call at the end of it, and they said, we want to do VO for the game. And I was like, damn it, what have I done? I've made so much more work for myself. And then we did a little test, and it was really cool. It was just me acting, so the acting wasn't very good, but we knew it was going to work. And then, Deb Mars, who we work with at Annapurna, she was like, who are you thinking for Lightman? And I'm like, well, like who can I have? What's the echelon here? And she's like, if you could have anyone, who would you get? And I was like, I'll get Carl Weathers. She's like, I'll get back to you. And then, a week later, you get the call, Carl's in. And then a week after that, Carl's in the studio, and he's reading all the nonsense that you wrote.
It was the part he was born to play. He was just so great at it. So,
I couldn't see any other actor playing the role. He was just so perfect for it, because he's that guy who has like the charisma, like the Apollo Creed, who is kind of like a stage persona. But then he's also like in Happy Gilmore. He's got like perfect like comedic timing. What a one in a zillion, that guy.
And imagine he's got his hands in this one, so he was able to shred some really great guitar. The Crocs didn't get Lightman. In The Artful Escape, Francis Vendetti, so he goes on this journey of a lifetime. We haven't talked about the game itself all that much of the story, and that's fine, because this journey is really interesting. But I'm wondering about your journey. I first played The Artful Escape. It was the last game I played before they turned off the lights at E3. I want to say it was E3 2017, and it stuck with me. It carried me through the flight home. I want to know how you have spent the last 4 years between that time when we all saw the game, that was introduced to the world, to where we're at now.
What have I done? I've done so much stuff. I think the crazy thing is like just having a studio and learning to work with people and learning to. Well, I was going to say like do the accounting, but I get someone else to do that. I mean, that's another. You find someone to do the accounting. That's really important. And we've just been crafting. I mean, the thing is, because the whole game is this kind of tracking shot, like this Wes Anderson kind of long dolly shot. There's so much detail in the game that passes the camera in a second, and we never wanted to like compromise on it. We always wanted the player to be able to stop and see these vistas, and then you have the voice acting. That was like a huge thing that we did, and just like making sure that the pacing of the game was correct. I think we got really. We did really well. I feel like we approached it in kind of a musical sense as well, as kind of verse, chorus, bring it down, guitar solo. And I feel like the game has a good flow to it. So that was definitely one of the things we worked hard on. I spent, way too long in the recording studio having so much fun. Absolute privilege to be in the studio with such good musicians for so long. And just making sure, it had all the bells and whistles. And hanging out with Carl Weathers, my best friend Carl Weathers, who we hang out all the time.
There was at least 2 years of that, I'm sure, just hanging out with Carl Weathers right there. I'm glad you recorded as
I did
much
get to hang out with
them.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, it's a bit of a delay. We're here to hear you, Johnny Galvatron, not me. They'll get me for the rest of the hour.
Okay, well, I'll just tell you sorry about that. Sorry, that's so unprofessional. We're
good. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. I mean, another cool thing was like working with Jason Schwartzman. I got to just hang out with him for an hour before and just like talk about Bowie and Bob Dylan, and that was just like what a moment. I'm a huge fan, so it was just like I loved it. And then when he came into the studio, he had all these props. Like he had a cape and some hats and an umbrella, like a little synth and stuff. And I'd be like, let's try the line this way. And he'd do one way, and then he'd try a different way. He'd flip the cape back, and then he'd hold the umbrella up. Amazing experience.
I would have been disappointed if it was anything else, because he's a great actor. I loved him in Scott Pilgrim. Of course, he's done many other things, Wes Anderson, but then also a heck of a musician as well with Coconut Records. So the game, The Artful Escape, now available on Xbox Game Pass. You have no excuse not to try it. You've never played anything like it, I can assure you. I'm curious, now that it's been out for the better part of a week, what's the reaction been like, Johnny?
Metal AF. The reviews have been really amazing. It's been great, getting so much input from Twitter, and I can't believe you kind of steel yourself for an onslaught of nastiness, especially after I was in like a mid-tier band that was kind of like Poison. I'm used to a bit of internet carnage, so I can't believe how good it's been. And just seeing all the costumes people make and the personas that people make have been an absolute delight.
That's so awesome to hear. Like I said, you have to try the game. If any of this piques your interest, give it a go. Wait to the point where you get a guitar in your hand. That's when once you go into space, you'll know stuff is getting real, and that's where you have the majority of the game. And you start to see things you've never seen before. Depending on your mental state at any given point. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you very much, Johnny, for joining us. It's been great having you on here at the Artful Escape. It's available now. And Johnny, please give your best to your grandfather, Megatron.
Thank you. I will. He's doing well.
Well, that was something, wasn't it?
With a last
I
name
could
like
talk to Johnny
Galvatron,
for a
what did
long
we
time.
expect?
So apologies
Exactly.
in advance because, as you could tell, as Jeff mentioned, he's from Australia and the internet was a little dicey down there. But what I loved about Johnny was, as you said before we were in the interviews, Jeff, is that he's exactly the person who could make that game. And when you play the game, you'll understand. You finished the game, right?
Yeah, I played it. I loved it. It's only about, I don't know, maybe 5 hours or so. Highly recommend you go through it. It's more of an experience than anything. You kind of can't fail.
Right.
But you still have agency, especially in sort of like how you customize yourself and when you're music. But it's just sort of like a beautiful thing to watch and listen to. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And if Johnny Galvatron can't sell you on the game, what chance do I have?
And the funny part about it was, I mean, Johnny's great. He wore the sunglasses, like we have our sunglasses on. He wore sunglasses the whole thing. And Jeff, I don't know how you didn't ask, like, what's up with the sunglasses? But you know what? Once we started rolling with the interview, it made perfect sense. It didn't need explanation.
No. And here's the other thing is that when you play Artful Escape, everybody wears glasses. Like
Right.
everybody. Like
Right.
no, and they never come up. So I almost would have been, disappointed if he took them off. It would have been a bit of a
he's
letdown.
just staying in character.
He's just,
Yeah.
just like we are right now. So,
I respect the commitment.
Jeff, should we? Do you have some news? We got to do a little bit of news here. I know you've got some stuff on the news desk there. Do you want to take your? We'll take our glasses off now. Okay.
Oh, you can move them on. It's fine. I just
Give
need to
these
read
back
the
to my
news.
dad.
Ooh, hi.
Sure. Tell us what you told, or tell everyone what you told us about those glasses.
Yeah, off the air.
My dad has been using my car while I've been gone, and so I got these out of there, and he says that these help him see the fish in the river because they're like polarized or something. And then they also come with the nice dad loop, so in the summertime they're just hanging around his neck there like that. So I'll keep them there now.
The time is perfect because as part of Xbox Game Pass, available now, I Am Fish. Yes, it's available from day one. It's a charming physics-based adventure starring 4 intrepid fish friends, one of which I'm sure your dad will be gravitating to. So there were 13. I had to see you up for that. I was like, there's got to be a fish game when you
There
mentioned
it
that.
is.
Indeed. There's also a
My
bird
dad
game.
does have an
Super.
Xbox, so this sounds perfect.
There we go. I don't think it's a fishing game. He's taken the role of the fish, so it might actually make him think differently about the
Yeah.
fish
Oh wow!
in the future.
Exactly.
Anyway, 13 games were
the
announced.
hunter becomes
for
the hunted.
Xbox. So there's just a ton to play. I'm going to call out a few of these. Some of them we've known about for a long time, like Lemnis Gate. We did an interview, I want to say a little while ago, which is like a really interesting Groundhog Day sort of tactical shooter against other folks where you keep going back and forth, almost like a chess game, but it's a shooter. You'll want to look for that interview because it's super complicated or super complex, but really interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out for real. Larry, for you, well,
Yes.
of course, I think you'll be very interested in playing Subnautica. There's a updated version here, which is called Below Zero.
Yep.
So did you ever get into Subnautica as a scuba diver? I feel like this would be your thing.
I did. Something came along which pulled me away from it, but I did enjoy it as you said, as a scuba diver because it's I love being in that weightless aquatic environment.
Cool. So we talked about Sable. That's out next week. Origami 2, which seems really cool. I think the first Origami is also ARA, not origami. I have a Philly accent. I apologize. But you're not folding paper here. It is a stealth co-op game that it just seems really cool, and that's out now,
Right.
day one type of game. And then I was really excited to find this out. Phoenix Point. Phoenix Point is made by the original creators of like XCOM 1 and 2, not the remake or the sort of like rebooting of XCOM 1
Right.
and 2 that happened during the Xbox 360 generation. Fantastic games. Love Firaxis. They're awesome. Really like that they're working on a Marvel game. But the original XCOM, which was like on early PC days, the game that they're making now is Phoenix Point. It's been out on PC on Windows 10, part of Xbox Game Pass, but it's coming to console on October 1st, and they're going to be adapting it, and so that's going to be really cool too. Anyway, 13 titles that are coming in the next couple of weeks, which is so much, and that's on top of everything else that's available to play. So really, time management is the real game here.
So hurry and
because
finish
we have-
Psychonauts on Game Pass because you have a lot of other games to get into.
Exactly.
Noted.
So I saw this post that said THQ is celebrating a major Xbox store sale, and I was like, Larry's on sale, but I just see major, and I immediately think Major
I
Nelson.
know.
It's somehow the 10th anniversary of THQ Nordic. I feel like they just formed very recently.
Right?
They work on an incredibly diverse slate of games that they publish. Everything from like a huge sort of third-person action adventure with Biomutant, which came out earlier this year. Darksiders, that series. Everything to like
Kingdoms
SpongeBob
Amalur,
SquarePants.
people love that.
Yes. Oh, Kings of Amalur: Re-Reckoning, which I've been meaning to get to.
I love Destroy
so-
All Humans.
Yes. So there's a lot of stuff. MX versus ATV. Anyway, significant sales up to 75%. And that is going on now until September 27th.
If you really want to
And-
check it all out, head over to my blog at majornelson.com. There's a whole, you can sort by date title and the whole routine. So you'll check them all out over there. THQ, 10 years, Jeffrey. THQ. Nordic.
Yes. And now that we are halfway through the month is actually the start of Hispanic Heritage Month.
Oh,
And
that's
Rebecca,
right.
I know you're working, internally on the work that we're doing here. I'd love to hear more about some of the things that we have planned.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Hispanic Heritage Month in the US runs from September 15th through October 15th. So it just started a couple days ago. On the Xbox side, we have a lot of cool ways for people to get involved, learning, entertainment. For one thing, the Forza team is actually doing a livery design contest. So if you use hashtag ForzaHHM and share any designs that you've created that are kind of like rooted in like Hispanic or Latino culture, there's a chance for those to be featured in game, and then also for the people who design them to get in-game rewards. Pretty cool. Microsoft's also going to be matching rewards points, different kind of rewards, for folks who donate to Latinx in gaming, which is it's a group that connects Latinos across the gaming industry, promotes cultural appreciation, representation in games. And then there's also another group that you can donate to called CARE. They're fighting poverty around the world, but they're also specifically doing it in like Latin America and the Caribbean. So any points that are donated to those groups, through Hispanic Heritage Month, will be matched by Microsoft, so you can double the impact. And then, we've also just got a lot of really good programming that's planned this month. So on twitch.tv/Xbox, we have a lot of different, Hispanic and Latino creators, protagonists, stories, content, things like that. I think each week has a different kind of programming schedule, but it's all in celebration and support of Hispanic Heritage Month. So yeah, there's a lot going on. We published an Xbox Wire post on Wednesday. I would check it out if you're curious to learn more. There's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, thank you for
There's
that.
going to be
Yeah.
some familiar faces. Part of what I do is actually I was working with some of these creators to bring them onto our channel next week. So I know you know Danny Pena,
Godfrey.
Larry. So Godfrey will be taking over the channel.
Good for him.
Andy Cortez
cool.
from Kind of Funny will
Yep.
be joining us, I think, the week after on the 27th. So you can look for them. These guest creators joining us starting 9:20 in the afternoon Pacific time, and
That's
having
September
fun
20th.
and bringing new voices to our channel, which is really cool.
Thank you, Jeff. That's great. Great
Yes.
program. Thank you for letting us know about that, Rebecca. And Jeff, thanks for all the great work on that.
Of course, one of the things I just wanted to bring up is you talked about donating points, and we've brought it up a couple of times, but if you're on Xbox, and I'm assuming you are, if you're listening to the show, make sure you download the rewards app, because then every time you launch a game that's in Game Pass, which is like, all of the games, or you unlock achievements, things like that, you'll see this sort of, we call it a toast pop up. And if you hold down the Xbox button, the Nexus button, what do we call that? I actually saw a poll. And anyway, you end up racking up points. Exactly that sound. Thank you, Larry. And you end up racking up points. And then you can donate those points, which we match. And so it's just all you got to do is, 1, play games.
Right.
Easy.
You're doing that
2,
anyway.
when you see the thing pop up, hold
Yeah,
it down.
do
And
what you're
remember, it's
already
like
doing.
redeem more. And before you know it, after a month, you'll rack up 9,000, 10,000 points, which you can donate and turn that into real money that can be donated and then matched. And that's like really powerful. And the fact that you can just keep doing what you're doing and do something good is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
So,
it's a friction-free way for gamers to kind of help out, the community around them and beyond. So thank you for that, Jeff. Good point. What else you got for news over there, pal?
I think we're going to leave it there. Obviously,
Okay.
we're getting into a crazy period of games coming out. We've got Back 4 Blood coming up in a couple of weeks. I really hope that we get to play. We'll need to get a 4th, but that should not be hard.
Yep.
And then, we've got, what is it? Age of Empires 4 coming out after that, and Forza and Halo. And there's obviously so many games from our
It's gonna be a busy
partners. And
fall.
so it's going to be so much to play.
You know what I'm
So,
excited
a lot
about,
of
Jeff?
opportunities to rack up those points.
And I don't apologies in advance, Rebecca, because I don't mean to not include you. But Jeff and I have a history with the Far Cry franchise.
That's right. That's coming out soon.
So we've got, in fact, I'm working on a very special guest to interview for that show. I'll tell you more in the future. Stay tuned. But that's also that, because if you go watch the trailers, I mean, the co-op. Have you ever played, Rebecca? Have you ever played the game?
Mm-mm, I haven't.
It is just an open world co-op sandbox delight. I mean, Jeff and I got into so much trouble in this game. We just had, we're not going to talk about that afternoon or that evening in the field punching cows. But beyond that, it was a lot of
We're
fun.
tenderizing the beef. Larry.
It was a lot of fun. So if you want to try it, Rebecca, maybe you and I or you and Jeff can do co-op. We're happy to pull you into that, because you need to be part of that
Yeah, seems like you guys would be the right ones to hit up for some nonsense for sure.
So looking forward to that.
Did you just offend us? I mean, I'm not offended. I'm just like, was that?
No,
It's fine. We deserve it.
it was a compliment.
That was like
Yeah.
Oh.
that was like a mother-in-law backhanded compliment. Is what that
Yeah.
was. So well
Nonsense.
done.
That's your department.
Yeah, that's yours. Anyway, all right, gang. Well, thank you, Rebecca, for you didn't have to travel back to the West Coast. I mean, I know you came out here,
Just for the
Just
show.
for this. Yeah.
but it's great. Thank you for coming in and doing the show. And when you come back, you'll be back in New York. You'll be back in the city.
Yep. Back in my small apartment.
Awesome. Well, safe travels there. Jeff, you and I are going to get together this weekend, right? We talked about that, or maybe this week.
I haven't
cool.
seen you in a while.
I know.
Why are we not in the same room, by the way? Like, how did this not come together? We had our chance.
It's funny, when I was talking to Rebecca, I'm like, geez, I wish you had known you were there. We would have taken you to lunch or something, but you're booked. You're like leaving like almost directly after the show to go back east. So I appreciate that.
Yep. Yeah.
Gotta
It's
maximize
nice to
the
see you
Pumbaa
guys
time.
virtually.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Is
Bye,
is
Pumbaa
Pumbaa going to stay out
podcast.
here, or is he going to go with you back to New York?
TBD. For now, he's staying. Him and my dad have developed quite the bond. We'll see.
I'm sorry.
Maybe they'll find some fish together.
Yeah, you just said that, and I just have this image of your dad and Pumbaa sitting on the couch, both with sunglasses.
No, it's more like they've been laying in the hammock in the backyard, and my mom sends me these photos, and Pumbaa is like laying on my dad's head in the hammock, and my dad is sleeping while wearing these sunglasses.
Right. So,
So
all right. Well, there you go.
Pumbaa's living that country lifestyle now.
He's enjoying he's living his best country life. Anyway, all right, gang. We'll see you guys next week. We've got some more interviews for you next week. Some more fun. Jeff will have more news. Rebecca, you'll also probably have some interviews lined up, and we look forward to everybody. So stay safe, have fun, everybody, and hit us up on Twitter. You know how to find us. It's pretty straightforward. Hit us up on Twitter. Let us know what you think.
There it is.
They're all right there. And then also, Jeff, do you want to do the YouTube shtick?
Oh, I mean, we haven't done this in a couple of weeks, but we do greatly appreciate your comments, the polite ones, most of them, or the constructive criticism. Maybe not the marriage proposals that occasionally come up there.
Can you be kind, please? Because
YouTube.
I found out Rebecca's mom reads the comments, so be cool.
Yeah. I mean,
Anyway.
yeah, no pressure, but
Be cool,
bear in
people.
mind. Yeah.
You need to pass that bar. Just you should know that. Anyway, we do appreciate those comments. We get in there, and we love to engage with you there. That's the best place. Obviously, if you're listening to this on audio services, that's great too. Feel free to engage us on Twitter, which we just shared there. And your comments and your reviews there are also greatly appreciated. We'd love to go back through there and review those. But thanks for joining us, no matter what. Especially if you made it this far.
When we didn't do a show, I know you. I think you were not available, Rebecca. You were out doing something. Jeff and I spun up a Twitter Spaces, with the kind of clubhousey thing, audio.
Oh,
We had a great time with that. It was a lot of fun. So,
You cut it short, Larry. I mean, we're just gaining speed.
yeah. So, we just haven't had time. I mean, we've got the show. We don't want to. Rebecca, if you would join us sometime, we would love to do.
Yeah, I'd love
this
to.
maybe one night for like a half hour, an hour or so, and we just take live Q&A and listen to people, and it's great just to meet people because we had people from all over the world, right, Jeff? We had Korea, Australia, a lot, Germany. I mean, it was crazy.
We had some streamers that jumped in. Paris Lily jumped in.
that's right.
you it was like, whoa, hey, okay.
Yeah, apparently
Very cool.
People enjoy it, so we'll do that. We'll
Yeah, let's do it.
So there you go. There's your incentive. Follow us all on Twitter, and when we do this, we'll tweet that out. So, all right, everybody, have a great gaming week and weekend, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.